You women out there, y'all petty, man. Hey, LeBron, you 100% right on these girls hating on Caitlyn Clark. Y'all petty, girls. I expect men to be petty because we're the most insecure group in the world.
Hey guys, welcome back to That Liminal Period. It's your girl, Chun-Li Shoddy. In the last video, we saw Caitlyn Clark get pushed around by the women in the WNBA, and we saw a video where Charles Barkley mentioned that this type of pettiness, this type of aggressive behavior, the pushing, the shoving, that's not typically what he expects from women. That petty behavior is left for the boys and the men, and women shouldn't act like that. And in that video, I shared that I completely disagreed with that because I know for a fact that women compete amongst each other. And again, I'm not sure if this is a conversation and a topic that is only discussed amongst other women. Maybe this topic is still not studied as much, I guess, in the world of psychology. However, female competition is real. And so today I want to share a couple clips just talking about the competitive nature of women, what some of those drivers might be, and I'll share my thoughts. Let's get into it.
That I have is I'm in the makeup industry, and I see a lot of competition going on. Like all of the women are competing with each other, and I really don't understand why, because there's enough opportunities to go around. So why the cattiness?
Well, ladies, Courtney wants to know. So you're speaking specifically, why are women in particular being catty with each other in a business where you feel we could be in unity?
So before Jeannie Mai shares her take, I want to emphasize that she is talking about the beauty industry. She is a makeup artist. So an industry that is already dominated by women and is serving other women is still seeing competition within itself. We're not talking about being the first female CEO or being the only female on a board, right? We're actually talking about a very large industry with a lot of opportunities. However, women are still catty towards each other when it's in their own space with it. Like, so imagine like all those women that say, oh yeah, we can survive on an island, put a whole bunch of women on an island. It'll be like Amazonia. We're going to just thrive. No, we're going to kill each other because we have this internal competition.
First of all, we women, we're very introspective, we're very analytical, and we're hyper emotional, right? Those are our giftings, right? But you're taught in society and culture, in school, who's the most popular? I mean, my yearbook was like, who's the most popular? Who's the funniest? You know, and then all of a sudden later on, now our life is about Instagram likes and follows, right? And it's all about comparisons, right? You can never be the prettiest, you can never be, you know, the best body or the biggest, you know, achievement in whatever business you own and stuff. So I just feel like we're in a culture that constantly compares yourself. But if you don't have it set in your mind that you should only be competing with yourself in order to win in life, then you're gonna fall wayside to all of those pressures in the world.
Yeah. 100%.
I think too, oh, go ahead, Tams.
No, I was thinking, I think competition that way, because I believe there's healthy competition and then there's unhealthy competition. Healthy competition is when you are inspired by what someone else is doing and you believe that you can do it yourself. Unhealthy competition is when you see someone and it stems from your insecurity. I feel like women are very self-critical, so that sometimes they project that criticism onto other people. So then, like Jeannie was saying, then you start to compare. And when you start to compare, you're like, oh, all right, well, let me compete, because if I feel like I'm better than her, then that gives me some type of validation.
Yes.
But the thing is you've got to compete with yourself.
Prove how worthy I am by setting up how unworthy you are. So that way, I'm going to get it. I'm going to win. See, it's easy to be a king among paupers. It's hard to be a king among kings. You understand? So a queen among queens. So if I make you look worse, then I get to be the queen.
Absolutely.
But to stand queen, you know, queen to queen with the girls perked up, okay? That takes a little more energy.
Yes, I love this. What Malika just said again on Twitter is not being a victim, but a good student.
That's it.
That is how we should
Good
be
student,
approaching
Malika. Good student, Malika.
Good student, not be.
Yes, that's great. Don't be a victim, be a good student. But I want to go back to what Yvonne said, right? She said that it takes a little bit more energy to be a queen amongst queen. And that energy that she is talking about is that work. It's the dedication, the sacrifice, the sleepless hours, the things that you're willing to do, the effort that you place in. It's that energy that it takes to be better than the competition. So instead of just, again, constantly comparing yourself against other people, just always be consistent with the energy that you put forth. Just always work on being a better version of yourself, and eventually you'll beat the competition because you'll realize that you are the competition. So for all the women that take joy in tearing another woman's accomplishments down and not just pinpoint her actual flaws, like, I'm not saying women are perfect. There are plenty of biatches. There are plenty of lazy women. There are plenty of crazy women that need to be called out, right? I have no issues. I have no qualms about calling out BS, but don't just tear down another woman because you see her as competition. Do some work so that you can stand 10 toes down on who you are and not feel any type of way with seeing another great person. But anyways.
We know quite a lot about male competition, but we haven't studied female competition a great deal. I know that some evolutionary psychologists have been studying it, like Anne Campbell, but women compete with each other as well, and women have their own forms of aggression, but it's not spoken about much in our culture.
No, well, we don't.
And even in the workplace, women compete with each other, and I think that's it.
Especially in the
women might come
workplace.
up against hostile or hyper-competitive men, but women come up against other women as well. And it could be the case that younger women are not. Well, one speculation or hypothesis that I've had is that younger women don't always find it easier to work with older women because there is competition there and hostility.
Yes, well, there is evidence that women are happier with male bosses than with female bosses. And and that your observation about us not understanding the female competitive landscape is spot on. We don't understand female dominance hierarchies very well because females in the workplace are in a female dominance hierarchy and a male dominance hierarchy, and the rules are not the same. And there's a kind of sexual attractiveness tension between older women and younger women that doesn't play the same way with men, and it puts a strange dynamic into the workplace. And it's certainly by no means self-evident that women are women's best friends in the workplace either. So
that's right.
And these are all things that we don't understand well and are afraid to address. And I'm very curious about the female dominance hierarchy because it's not predicated on the same presumptions as the male dominance hierarchy. And I had a friend of mine who's a very, very insightful person, and he was talking about the mode of dress that's characteristic of repressive Islam, and one of his hypotheses was that it was a way that the older women exercised control over the sexual attractiveness of the younger women, and that it's actually not primarily a phenomena that's associated with male dominance of women at all. And I think that's a really interesting hypothesis and highly credible, because young women have a tremendous amount of sexual power, and that needs to be, let's call it a complicating factor. We could at least get away with that. It's a massively complicating factor. And we also don't know the degree to which women use sexual attractiveness in the workplace as a mode of achieving dominance and power. And one of the things I've thought about, for example, is, and I'm not suggesting that this is something that should be done, but a society that was truly aiming at removing sex bias from the workplace might ban makeup, because it's not that's appropriate from a technical perspective in the workplace, because it mixes sexual attractiveness with functionality in a way that's that at least is complex. Now, I wouldn't ever say that we should go so far as to ban makeup in the workplace, but there's a point to be made there, which is that we haven't separated out the politics from the sexual politics, and that's a major, major problem. And partly because we can't have real discussions about it, generally speaking, it's something that stays unaddressed.
I'm just going to say, I'm impressed that I was able to shut up for that long and let him cook, because I feel like it's very important to understand the conversation as a whole of what he's talking about, because I know he's been scrutinized in the past about saying we shouldn't allow makeup in the workplace, and he mentioned it here in this conversation as well. And I can see some valid points that he is making, because again, when we're talking about competition, that's what this video is on, right? Female competition. I think it is really hard for us to actually separate the competition, to separate that workplace politics with internalized competition. Like, it's really hard for women to do that. And they mentioned, you see that especially with older women and younger women in the workplace. I can think of two very vivid moments in my life where I was working in both female-dominated professions. The first place was when I was still in college and I was working at a nail salon. As you guys can see, I speak English pretty well, but to be quite honest, it's not my first language. I spoke Vietnamese for the most part of my life up until I started going to school, and that's where I learned English with everyone. So anyways, that's why I don't have an accent, or when you do hear the accent, it's going to be a Southern or an Atlanta accent, because I pick up accents and I pick up words because I don't know, it's always been something for me, okay? But anyways, getting back into it, I'm a very talkative person, which is also very evident in my videos. So if you watch my content, you know that these are just simple, plain facts I'm saying about myself. But when you work at a nail salon, you're not working by the hour. You're working to build a clientele. You're building rapport so that these people can come back and ask for you again. Because for the most part, the way it's divvied up with the finances is you either pay for a booth price or a commission, I guess, for every service you do, depending on the service, how expensive that service might be, you get a cut of that. But on top of that, where I saw the bulk of my money come from, because I was only working part-time when I was in college at a nail salon, the bulk of my money came from tips. It came from actually going above and beyond and delivering that service that so many women complain about when they go into the nail salon. Like suggesting them colors, suggesting designs, remembering what they told me last visit, you know, so that we can catch up. It becomes a lot more comfortable, and they want to take care of me, to be quite honest. And on top of that, with male clientele, the ones that were uncomfortable going into a nail salons where the women either didn't understand you, or just like when women go into an auto shop, they're going to try and upcharge you, right? They're going to try and convince you to do unnecessary things. Some men just want to come in for a pedicure and a little massage, right? Whatever. But if you go to certain nail techs, they might try to convince you get the paraffin wax. Oh, do you also want to do additional massage? It seems like you're enjoying this. It's $2 a minute. Like, who the freak is going to pay for that? Right? But they try to talk you into these things. And the men, again, they don't know the price tag. They don't come in often. So when you get a technician like me who speak English, who is understanding of other people and their budgets and what their purpose is. Like I said, I worked in sales as well after I graduated college. Like, that's what I do. Okay. Like, I like to listen to people, understand their wants, their needs, what is the gap, and how can I help with that? So for me, I would get a lot of fucking tips. Okay. Like, I might do a $30 pedicure and people are like, oh my gosh, you spent all this time on me. Here's a $30 tip. Well, in Jane, almost said my name there. In Chun-Li's mind, I'm thinking, like, why would I want to do more services and rush through the services when I'm only getting a cut of that, when I can just deliver really good service and keep all of my tip? Okay, so it is financially motivated to an extent, right? To an extent, because we all got to make money. When I was at this nail salon, a lot of times they would deliberately give me customers that they knew wouldn't tip, or they would give me customers that they knew would only come in for an eyebrow wax or a manicure. So smaller services, so I would be financially impacted for being who I was. The other technicians in the nail salon are primarily women. And they would tell the managers, like, hey, she's spending too much time on that one customer. Why is it your damn business? Are we not just self-contractors? If you want to do 2 pedicures in an hour so that you can get paid twice, go have at it. Have at it. Why are you mad at me because I'm doing 1 pedicure? If anything, that's more customers for you. With everything piled up, I just didn't want to deal with that type of competition anymore. Plus, I graduated college, and so I was able to go into my big girl job. The first job I had after graduating college, my first corporate job, was in a sales department, and it was for a really large print company, marketing company, whatever you want to call it. We did end-to-end turnkey print solutions. I was the only female sales rep in the Atlanta location, and I was hired on, and I was actually put on to a really good team. And that's why I also understand pretty privilege. I understand tokenism or DEI or being hired for being a female. Because to be quite honest with you, I was great in college. I was very involved. I was active. However, being hired onto such a large organization and then being placed onto a key accounts team where I wasn't doing cold calling, I was just managing accounts and making sure that they spend their entire budget with us. It was a great experience. However, I realized that I was the token hire. You know, like no matter how many hours I put in or working over weekends, at the end of the day, they would just hand me the card and tell me to take out certain customers to the bars and build rapport. Getting back into it, I really didn't like the fact that I felt like I was literally just being the honeypot. I was being leveraged in a lot of sales meetings or sales calls whenever it was in-person meetings. I was just there to gather the information, and they would bring me around for closing time. So during that time period, I actually was working with a very large account. I don't want to name drop them, but it was a really large account, and this time it was different. They put me on this account and said, we actually have a very difficult customer. She's very similar to you in that she's a hard worker. She's very, very smart. She's also from a different background. So there might be some cultural similarities, which I thought was hilarious because honestly, she's Colombian. She was my best friend for a while after we met, but just getting back into it, she was Colombian, but she was a beautiful woman. Like she was, think about Sofia Vergara. Okay, like she was beautiful. She was in her 40s, and I was fresh out of college, but we just clicked. Okay, because once again, there is so much competition within women that whenever you do meet another woman that is similar to you and have experienced similar things to you, sometimes there actually is going to be that bond. Because sometimes people don't like you or know or are aware of the pretty privilege that you didn't ask for, or maybe you did, because in my case, I do feel like I worked for it. And I'm sorry, I'm getting so long-winded, but she and I understood what pretty privilege was. We understood what it meant, but we also understood that we needed to work hard and earn our stay, right? So we automatically clicked, worked really well together. And she also noticed that the way that they were using me within my sales organization. She was my main account, so I saw her every day, but she would also meet with the sales lead. Eventually, she ended up leaving that really large organization and went to a startup. It was a minority female owned. So the company was actually owned by women of Indian descent or Indian background. You know what? Like, I'm trying to be politically correct, but they were Indian women, okay? They were from New Delhi. Like, they were Indian women. And so this organization was less than 20 employees when I started there. And I really wanted to go to an organization that was no longer focused on my external appearance. I was naive. I was, quite frankly, stupid. I went into this organization thinking that they're not going to give me extra privileges because I'm Asian, because they're also Asian. They're not going to treat me differently because I'm a female. They're also a female. So in a way, I thought that this is a great opportunity for me to go from a Fortune 500 company to a startup company, broaden my work experience, strengthen my resume, but also be able to work with people that valued me for what I was able to deliver. Or so I thought. Very quickly, once I was in the organization, I realized that, wow, like these women are catty. Oh my goodness. It was 20 employees, but there was maybe 5 women in leadership. Everyone else were analysts, and the analysts were you know, men and women. But as far as managerial roles and director and VPs, those were all women. I was hired on to be a manager. And within the first 6 weeks, I kid you not, they told me that I was too young to be a manager. And this is how naive I am, because I didn't realize that that was illegal. I didn't know that. Okay. I obviously I fought for my stay, and I became the freaking best manager that they ever saw. But getting back into it, I was just like, how it hurt. What, huh? Like, I went through 5 rounds of interview. My age never came up. Maybe you assumed that I was in my 40s because, once again, my previous customer was in her 40s. She was Colombian, and maybe we looked relatively similar in age. And so that's why you assumed that that's what it was. But you saw my resume. You know my work experience. You took me out of a good paying job. I just described to you guys how cushy that job was. Okay. I took a bet on you guys, and now I'm here and you're telling me I'm too young. So that was strike 1. Strike 2, and again, competition. And like, again, that first one, that was completely very overt, like the age difference, right? Because again, these women were Indian, but they were in their 40s. I'm assuming. I don't know. If they're not in their 40s, they looked like they were in their 40s. It could have been in their 50s. It could have been in their 30s. I don't know. Irrelevant. But they were older than me, and my age was a part of the issue. Not my work ethic, not my skill sets, nothing. It was my age. And that was an explicit conversation. Anyways, and I wish I just carried a recorder around, because again, this organization was so small, they lacked HR. So there wasn't even anyone that you can go tell. Who are you going to tell? Your director, who is also a woman that's going to report to the same VP that hates your guts? Okay, I'm actually foreshadowing right now, because you guys don't know that they hate me yet, right? But when I was in this organization, again, I told you guys I have a background in maintenance, repair, and operations. So it was actually a consulting company for those categories. So it's very ironic that it was ran by females, right? But again, it's because a lot of these organizations are tasked with working with companies that are DEI initiatives or female initiatives. Like, they have certain budgets for companies like this to exist. So I just so happened to join one unknowingly, right? But I'm a very observant person, and I started to realize it because I worked with private equity. So I could see all the decisions being made at the top and how it trickled down because I was working directly with private equity. So anywho, and if you guys aren't aware of private equity, what that is, those are the conglomerates. Those are those large organizations that own multiple branches. Like, I know women don't watch my channel based on the analytics, but for example, Hennessy, Moet, Louis Vuitton, that's all owned by one thing, right? So that's like a conglomerate. LVMH, Louis Vuitton, Moet, Hennessy. You also have Colgate Palmolive, you have Blackstone, you have BlackRock, you have KKR. There are so many different organizations with just initials, so you don't know what they really are, but they own all the other businesses. So they're creating this false competition. But anyways, I'm getting so far ahead of myself, and now you guys are going to realize why I'm crazy. But once I was in this organization, there were actually 2 different instances, but I guess I'll put it under the same category, but it was based on the way I was dressed. During this time period, and I've mentioned this in the past, but I used to be a competitive bodybuilder. I'm not saying like I was macho woman or anything, but I used to compete in bikini and figure competition. During that time period, I mean, I'm still working in a corporate office. I'm still wearing corporate attire. However, it's pretty obvious that I'm much more fit than the other women around me. It was at one point, the VP walked into my office because she caught wind that I was a competitive bodybuilder, and she asked to go through my Instagram to see those competition pictures. And so, of course, in front of my face, they're like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. You're so fit. You're so healthy. We need to get like you. But after that, she ended up having a conversation with my director and actually said that I needed to work on the way I dress. Okay. And I don't wear leggings to work. It's not like I'm wearing plunging necklines. And I mean, I know it seems very whatever you say. But I do have on like a full length dress. It's just like a tube top. And so the way that the camera is, but obviously I would never wear this in a corporate office, but I'm in Atlanta and it's hot. So they were saying, like, the VP anyways, and it's a very flat organization. It's not like, oh my gosh, VP of Coca-Cola. No, this is a very 20-person organization. And the VP went and told my director, who had the conversation with me, saying that I needed to work on the way I dressed. And I straight up told my boss, I literally buy my clothes from Banana Republic, which is a business casual place to buy clothes. I also buy my clothes 2 sizes bigger because I'm also not typically stage ready. Currently, I am stage ready. I'm wearing women's slack. I can't help that my proportions are the way that they are. And like I said, I did bikini and figure competition. And if you guys understood bodybuilding, you would understand why. It's because of the proportions. It's because of your body frame. It's seeing which suited me best, okay? So I'm just trying to describe the fact that they were criticizing, honestly, a situation that didn't have to exist. Now, am I going to lie and say that I am over here wearing parachute pants and frumpy tops? No, of course not. But at the same time, I do not feel like I was dressing any type of way of inappropriateness. I sat behind an office, okay? Most of my meetings were virtual or over the phone. So, anyways, so that was the second time. The other fashion thing that they lumped in, outside of just you literally physically being in better shape, I actually had another VP who did like me, who loved me actually. And she was just telling me what the other people were saying. Because again, like, we're talking about a very female dense company. So there is a lot of chatter. There is a lot of rumors. There's a lot of cattiness. And this is all things that I was honestly not that privy to, because outside of the nail salon, I never worked in a female dominated professional place. But anyways, this other VP told me that I shouldn't wear any nice handbags or nice shoes to work. Again, I sit in an office with nobody. Okay? It's an empty office by myself. Everyone else is in a cubicle and all the managers are in offices. And she's saying it out of love, but she's saying it's because the other women were already talking about it. They don't like the fact that I like nice handbags, and obviously I'm paying for it myself, but it's an issue. So no matter what, people are going to find reasons to pick on you. People are going to find reasons to not like you. And unfortunately, I was too dumb, too naive, too unexpecting of these conversations of when they were going to happen and when they would happen, because you don't expect it to be so explicitly stated to you. So of course I never had any of this recorded. I ended up just leaving the organization, going through a mental breakdown to modern day women stuff. Okay. But, yeah, competition in the workplace is real. Anyways, getting back to what Jordan Peterson was saying as far as the hypothesis that within repressive Islam, it's really women that are imposing modest dressing on other women, and that is to control the sexual attractiveness. And he mentioned this is a complicating factor because, once again, we don't understand how some women, or the degree that some women leverage this sexual attractiveness or this physical attractiveness. And I'm trying to be very transparent on my channel. And so, once again, based on my own personal experience, once I was in that first sales organization and realized that I was here as possibly the token girl, but for sure I was here as someone to bait in conversation or at least set the tone, right? That's what I was there for. So even though I was trying my best, like I said, I was like working late nights. I remember crying in the basements of this particular organization, and it's known to be one of the most cutthroat, hardworking, crazy, no work-life balance organization, okay? And I was just a vendor there. And I remember being pulled into projects night after night, weekend after weekend, and just crying. And there were other people on my team, like pregnant women, that were just breaking down just because of that toxic work-life culture. But anyways, getting back into it. See, I keep getting onto these tangents when I talk about real life, personal experiences, but when I was at that sales organization, again, I was on a male-dominated team. So my boss, my peers, they were all men. So I knew I was already getting special treatment, but at the same time, I'm working hard. Yes, I am. I'm busting my ass, but I'm going to leverage every facet that I have. I'm going to leverage every advantage I have, every single gear, lever, pulley available to me. I'm pulling it, okay? I was a very competitive young woman. Like, I was out here, like, I was taught to be the boss babe, okay? Like I said, like, first job, second job, third job, like, they were all boss babe jobs that I had. And so for me, I didn't care. If I knew I was going to have a tough customer, or if I knew that I was going to have a QBR or quarterly business review or annual, an annual review with your boss, I'm pulling out the cutest outfit. I'm making sure that my hair is nice today. I'm making sure that I smell nice. Nothing inappropriate, but I would make sure that I look my best. And I'm sure you guys can notice that there are days on this channel that I have no makeup on, my hair is crazy, and I'm in a hoodie. There are other days where I might be running errands, so I might already come in with a face full of makeup. Well, it's really never a face full of makeup. This is some pick me shit I'm saying, but no, yeah, it's like, I think it's okay to leverage things at certain times in certain places. It's just like when men dress up to go out a night in the town. It's to meet other women. Like, you want to dress your best. You want to look your nicest. You want to look your nicest. You want to send out your representative. And that's what I was doing. So anyways, I realized that, but then I also realized the flip side of it. There are going to be women that see the way that you dress and find that as competition. I altered it. I started, like I said, buying clothes that were bigger, not as form-fitting, stop caring as much. The only things I really did care about was my handbags and my shoes, because that's really where I was blowing my big girl checks on. But anyways, I'm getting all over the place right now, but I think it's very fair for Jordan Peterson to say that if we really wanted to live in an egalitarian society, which personally I don't think can happen, but if we really want to live in an egalitarian society where we remove sex out of decision making, or any type of bias out of decision making, then we would have to remove makeup and perhaps enforce a dress code. And even then it gets kind of dicey, right? Because we all remember Teacher Bay. We remember the teacher that, would wear full pants and long dresses, but she was just so dang bodacious that it was inappropriate. So I don't know. I think it's a very complicated conversation. I don't necessarily think that we're unable to have the real conversation, like Jordan say. I just think it's a complicated conversation, because I don't know how many women would really tell you like these manipulative tactics, if you want to call them that, or how many women overthink and overanalyze these situations when they're choosing out their outfit for the day. Do you dress your best when you go into an interview? Why or why not? But anyways, I know I'm going all over the place, but I basically wanted to share my personal experiences with competition amongst women, as well as share the clips of other women acknowledging and addressing why it might be. Anyways, I enjoyed this conversation. I hope you did too, and I look forward to speaking again with you guys next time. Bye.